In this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be analyzing Oleksii Novikov's deadlifts from the 2023 Shaw Classic. I'm going to show you kind of what we saw in real time when we were on the arena floor. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to do Oleksii Novikov's 900 lift. So what we were doing is we're basically processing at as fast a speed as we can. Lower left-hand corner is really velocity and force. There's a couple other measurements on there, but velocity and force are what matter. Here in the center is velocity over time in meters per second, and on the right is our 1 rep max calculator. All right, so lift is done. The entire analysis of the video is here, but you'll notice that the lift it's obviously clear where the lift is. Now, what's important to note here is that this is a 18.46 inch deadlift. So this is essentially a rack pull. But this is our actual lift curve in the left-hand corner with his 900-pound lift. Just like last year, his 900-pound lift was anticlimactic. It actually started kind of slow. So his lift starts right here. This is where he's pulling the bar off the floor. And what he's doing is he's bending the bar to his knee. That's why we're seeing this deceleration. The red line is the raw data. The white line is the RMS value. It's actually our smooth calculation. But basically what we're seeing here is him bending the bar up to his knee. So we see a deceleration here. What we're looking for, this is the initial pull. So we're looking at this force curve. And what we want to see is that this curve, this line on that initial pull is that's the transfer of the weight at the knees moving towards the back and the hips. That what we're looking at is for that line to be 30 degrees or greater. So either steeper than 30 degrees or at 30 degrees. Okay, and this is clearly above 50 a 50 degree angle, which means he's got a lot in the tank. And then we're looking at his lockout. So this is his pull, and that's his lockout, and then this is his hold in lockout before he drops the bar. Okay. Interestingly, his velocity was very low all throughout the lift, okay, with the exception of his initial pull, our spike there. And what we're going to do is go ahead and intersect his velocity, so somewhere between 24.8 and 25.6. And what we calculate here is a theoretical 1 rep max, not very high. This is a very anticlimactic lift. We're calculating somewhere a little over 1,000 pounds is his 1 rep max on that lift type. Okay, so that's the 900-pound lift. And what we'll do is we'll quickly look at the slow motion version. All right, so you'll notice on the curve, he's going to do a quick pull. He's going to do a hard pull to get the bar to his knees. All right, so that's the initial. You saw that initial deceleration, which was a pull, a kind of a drop, and then a straight pull up. Okay, that's a beautiful lift. Very anticlimactic. So clearly he knows he can lift at least 200 pounds more. And so this is really nothing more than a warm-up lift where he's holding back. Okay, so we actually can't accurately calculate 1 rep max because of the way he did the lift, which was he held off on the speed at which he lifted. And we actually generally don't see that. He's one of the few athletes who he did it last year on the 900-pound lift, and he did it again this year, where he is not pulling 900 the way he pulls 1100, as opposed to where we compare Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw pulls every lift exactly the same way. I mean, even an empty bar, he pulls exactly the same way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Oleksii's 1,050-pound lift. All right? So good pull. Now you'll notice here, this was a full force lift. So again, greater than 30 degrees. He's actually above 45 degrees. Again, beautiful lockout. He had a slight deceleration at the end. That's obviously the tires bouncing down and essentially pulling his hands down. And then a very same lockout. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the SloMo, the 1050 SloMo. And you'll notice the same thing again here. He goes ahead and pulls. He pulls to his knees, is where he gets a slight deceleration, and then that's the 40-degree angle coming up the lockout. You saw the tires And you'll notice his hands move. That gives you the deceleration down. And that's what the chart's giving us. What we want to do is watch this CG, this center of mass, center of gravity or mass. So basically this is an equal, we want the weight to be equally distributed on both sides of the body. And one of the things that we always see in these professional athletes is that green dot, that center of mass, literally goes straight up and straight down. They even drop it evenly, and it's really quite insane. We'll go ahead and back and look at the 900. And we'll jump up here when he starts to pull. And let's go ahead and watch that center of mass here. And we pick up even the slightest movements. So essentially, 1 pound in one direction or the other. This was a long one. We're recording a while. Perfect center of mass. And that's how they're able to achieve. I mean, this is one of the crazy things that these pros do is they get very, very close to what their theoretical is. They do that mentally, but they also do it with form. It's the biggest thing. All right, next lift is, all right, so we're going to do his first 1,100 pound lift. So he came out after the fact. Now, we fully expected him to pull this after the 1050, even though we didn't get a prediction. We fully expected him to pull this, okay? So you'll notice he didn't pull it. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's take a look at his actual lift. So the lift starts here. Notice his initial push is less than 30 degrees. Okay, so that angle is under 30 degrees, which is telling us, and now we didn't know that when we essentially, once we analyzed the data of 10,000 lifts, give or take, it became, there were certain patterns that emerged, and one of them is this angle, okay? So this is under 30 degrees, which means he's getting very close to theoretical max. Now, what didn't make any sense was that as clean as he pulled 1050, he should have been able to pull the 1100 easily. We did not understand why he failed this lift. Like, we were lost. We were stunned afterwards why we had calculated he'd get it. So now, a couple of things. I did notice immediately this big deceleration at the knee. So this is the initial pull of force right off the floor. And then there's a massive deceleration right at the knee. Okay, now his knee is higher than 0.4 meters. It's actually a little higher because of his height. So there's a big deceleration, which we're not accustomed to seeing at the knee. We're accustomed to seeing this increase in force above the knee, but we're not accustomed to seeing this deceleration. So what ended up happening was Oleksii came back out after this lift, after Tom Stoltman came in and did his 1,100 pound lift, and he came out and said, I want to do 1,100 again to show the fans I can do it. Okay. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the slow motion video of the first lift. And here is something that happened. I want you to look at his left knee, and I want you to look at his shorts on his left-hand side. This is what he ends up telling the fans later. That the bar clipped his knee, and then the bar got stuck on his shorts. And he said, I'm a professional. I know better. It was a stupid mistake. And that's where the deceleration. Bam. See, he hits the knee right there on the left-hand side. That's where that deceleration came in. He starts riding up his shorts. But here's the issue. The issue is because he decelerated, he couldn't re-accelerate. Okay, so he could not re-accelerate the bar once he was under full tension. Okay, and that's obviously why he failed. So he comes back out and he says, hey, I want to do 1,100 again because I want to show the fans that I know how to do it. So let's go ahead and take a look. Lift number 2. All right, here we go. So this is lift number 2. All right, so this is his initial lift. Okay, so this is that initial force. Notice we don't see a deceleration at 0.4 of a meter. What we've done with this yellow line is actually positioned at his knee height. That's essentially what we're doing here. So that yellow line is showing us where his knee is. So he has a big shot of velocity. Then he has greater than a 30-degree angle with the transfer of mass. Okay? And then he has a very long lockout. So let's go ahead and take a look at our highest, just under 7. And then we have one at just above 8, which we have no calculation. But the peak, it looks like what we have here, so we want that. So it's between 6 and 7. It's right there. So it looks like he's really close. It looks like we probably have 1150 there. Again, if I had I should be able to right click and give me the number, but it looks like 1150 was theoretical max here. We had a range of 1150 to 1220 on the raw data. So on the raw data that backs these charts, we had a theoretical max of 1,150 to 1,220 pounds total. Much better curve here. If you see the length, total lift was from 6.5 to 11.5. That's a 5-second lift. It's a very long deadlift. But he had amazing velocity off the floor, and he had amazing velocity on the lockout. Really well done. Let's take a 1100-2. By the way, that's his second time pulling that. And so let's watch his center of gravity here. Let's watch the center of mass. And mind you, he's doing this for nothing. This is just for the fans. The event's already over. Tom's already pulled 1100. Oleksii's lost. He tied for second with Brian Shaw and Mitch Hooper. Remember, we're watching in slow motion. That just center mass is so flawless. At these weights, that's crazy. And the fact that this is one of those big-ass elephant bars that flexes as much as it does. All right. So that is the analysis of Oleksii Novikov's deadlifts at the Shaw Classic this year. All right. Please comment down below if these analyses are even valuable, anybody's even interested in them at all. If you comment down below and you're interested in seeing the analysis of Tom Stoltman and Brian Shaw's deadlifts from the Shaw Classic 2023, please let me know. Like, subscribe, share the video with somebody who might think it's interesting, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, bitches.